Here we have a Troy Bilt single speed front wheel drive 21 inch. It's the thingamabob or whatever it's called, 47273. 6.5 horsepower. The two front wheels wouldn't propel. I took off the wheels and the gears on the wheels looked wonderful. I mean, they looked like that. And these wheels, they're the good design, same as the ones on them right now. They have the solid teeth, which the first time I think I've seen those, and that's probably the reason why they're not stripped out, and that's not the issue. Normally it's the wheels. I had ordered the wheels, but it's not the wheels. Take this off. You can run it without the cover. I had lubricated the metal gear and the pin with some penetrating oil to make sure it falls and moves properly. And that wasn't the issue. The pins were moving free. It was I started it and you could see the belt stopped moving, or the pulley stopped moving, yet the belt kept moving, which means that either something's jammed up or the belt's not tight enough to force all of the mechanism to work here to push the wheels. So I thought, hey, let's check how tight the belt is. Belt was very loose. So the how this belt is tensioned is you have a bolt here, and the bolt goes through this hole here, self-taps into this plastic, goes down, does not even touch the metal. What touches the metal, I'm sure you can see it there, is normally a spring. But the spring was broken. As you can see, there's part of the spring that broke. So I figured, could try to weld that spring together, could try to use some rubber grommets like these, try to put it under the spring, but that wasn't working very well, trying to build up the spring with these rubber grommets. So what we're going for here is a bolt, and I threaded this is a kit from Harbor Freight, M6 by 1.0 by 50 length bolt. See, this is the same bolt as I used here. It threads in there just fine, and you're going to keep threading it until it's pushing off of the mower deck there, until this pulley has some good tension, and I could barely spin that by hand. And that means that belt is well tensioned now, and let's give it a go and see if that's enough tension to make it work good. Something else I had just noticed is this little spring right here was hanging off this post. There's no detent to hold the spring on that post, so I drilled a tiny bit into that post. For example, here's how big this bit is. I mean, it's tiny. And I used a tiny self-tapping screw along with a washer that I had cut out of a piece of inner fender. And that's going to retain that spring that's probably worn out from jumping off that post. You can see that's just a piece of plastic inner fender, and I had screwed that self-tapper through it. And the way that this system gets its tension is by a spring that presses off that foot, and then the gearbox pivots over the axle, which pulls this pulley that sticks off this gearbox away from the axle like that. That's how it gets its tension. So by putting that bolt in there and tightening it down, we're getting more tension on that belt. And I did it to the point where I can spin this by hand. If you could see that, just barely able to spin that by hand. And it'll slip the belt, which means hopefully if it ever gets into a bind, it won't break any of the parts. It'll slip the belt just a little bit. And I tested it. It's still easy to start. It's a little more drag because the belt's finally operating the gearbox at the same time, but that's how you fix it. You stick a bolt in there, tighten it down, tightens the and it was basically the whole length of that bolt what tensioned it perfectly. But I would test yours and do it to the point where that pulley feels real tight by hand, but you could slip it if you need to. And yeah, I'll clean up all this oil that's spilled out of the oil fill because I didn't put it on perfect. and wipe it down, and then this thing will be ready to go. Make sure you blow out all the grass clippings from in here, because that could jam up this arm. The way that this gearbox activates is this arm. Whenever you pull the lever, I'll show you. See that? So it's a good idea to lubricate that cable if possible without messing up the belt. Good idea to rub all this oil you spilt all over the deck in this, under this cover, so it doesn't rust too bad. Here we have a rust spot forming underneath the cable, but that's not too bad. Put some oil on it, it'll last forever. I also hit everything in here with some penetrating oil. Keep those bearings good, stop anything from rusting. If anything needs to be replaced, we'll be able to replace it without having to deal with a whole lot of rust. Hopefully people see this and keep these machines going forever, because yeah, I think they could go forever as long as you got the ingenuity and the mindset that to not be wasteful. Yeah. See you later.